Okay.
I can see that. I can see that.
You can see, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just texted Shori and it shows he has read it. So
Okay.
let's hope that he responds and comes in. Osman, are you?
You say what?
Are you on?
Okay.
Huh?
I can't. Okay.
Say it one more time.
No, I wanted to add you to the spotlight, and it looks like you are not. Your video.
Turn my video off just because I'm driving.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
it.
No problem. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. You are welcome to this month's edition of our monthly show, Diaspora Dialogues. It is a pleasure to have you with us. My name is Moses Ochonu. I will be anchoring today's show, and I'm joined by my two colleagues, Professor Farooq Kperogi, who is a professor of journalism, mass communication, and new media at Kennesaw State University in Georgia. My other colleague is Dr. Osmund Agbo, who is a physician based in Houston, Texas, in the United States. It is a pleasure to welcome you to this edition. Our guest today is Omoyele Sowore, the renowned activist and human rights campaigner. He is not here with us yet. We are waiting and for him to join us. We are in touch with him, and he's going to join us shortly. And
Yeah, he has just joined.
He just joined. So Sowore is now with us. So thank you again for being with us on this show. We're just trying to do some housekeeping here to make sure that everything is okay on our end. But it looks like we are on, and the guest has joined us.
Make co-host.
Yes, so we're going to make him co-host shortly. There you go. He's now a co-host, and with that, I would like to. Yes. So now I can see our guest. Shawore, you're welcome. If you can hear me,
Thank you very much.
and
Yeah, I
thanks
can hear you
for.
loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can. Yes, excellent.
I hope you can see me as well.
Yes, we can. Yes,
All right.
yes. Thank you for joining us. I was just going through the preliminaries and doing the intros. But again, welcome. Our guest is with us. Shawore needs no introduction. Today's show is a bit of an omnibus because we are at the end of the show. We are going to reserve about 25 to 30 minutes for another group to be able to get to Shawore. Shawore is very much a man in demand, and he had to sacrifice. He was supposed to be somewhere else on another show, and he's with us. So we're going to try to reserve some time at the end for him to also participate on that show as well. That show is a weekly show, by the way. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce our guest. Although he needs no introduction, if you are a Nigerian, if you ever lived in Nigeria, you are familiar with the name Omoyele Sowore. But he is very well known to us. He likes to make good trouble, what has been called good trouble. He likes to make people in power uncomfortable. He likes to fight against corruption and malfeasance in high places. He likes to give voice to the voiceless. He likes to fight to protect the human rights of citizens, Nigerian citizens. He likes to fight against oppression and abuses of power. But Sowore's history didn't just begin with this administration, with the previous one. Sowore started out as a student union leader at the University of Lagos. During that time, he led many struggles, which cost him dearly. At one point, he was arrested and incarcerated. He has been incarcerated many more times after that. He's been tortured. He was front and center in the June 12 struggle. He was part of the pro-democracy movement that ushered in what we now call democracy in Nigeria. So Sowore is a man with a very wide resume in the struggle to make Nigeria better for all of us, to make Nigeria a better place for us to live in. He is very controversial, but as I like to say, if you are controversial, it means you are doing something right. Because you cannot fight for justice, you cannot fight corruption, you cannot fight for good governance without being controversial. Because every good fight invites backlash and invites resentment for those who profit from the rot, from the status quo. So for me, having Sowore here is an opportunity for us to pick his brains, but for us to get to understand what drives him, what keeps him going in this struggle. It's been over 20 years since Sowore and I got to know each other. We've grown older. Both of us are in our 50s now. And sometimes I ask myself, are we not getting too old for this stuff? But I see him leading demonstrations, going to places, bailing people out, speaking up boldly, being brave. And when I see that, it puts me to shame. And I say, well, even though I'm getting old and I'm feeling tired, I'm being inspired by what he does. So he's somebody who is an inspirational figure. But I do want to start off by asking him a couple of questions. And then after that, I'll turn it over to my colleagues, who I'm sure have their own questions as well. But I just want to start on a simple premise, really, because the title of our show today is "Why Are They After Sowore?" That is a simple title that will give this show. From our flyers, you can see that. Why are they after Sowore? The "they" there, you can put any number of people. You can put the government of the day. That "they" represents a lot of people. You can put the Inspector General of Police there. He's part of that "they," that collective pronoun. You can put Wike there. You can put a lot of other people there under that category, that pronoun. But why are they after him? So he's here with us. So I'm going to ask him that very question. Omoyele Sowore, I hope he's still with us. He seems frozen.
He's here. Yeah.
Okay. Please.
I'm with you. I can hear you.
Please, my brother.
I hear you loud and clear.
Why are they after you? Why always you?
Yeah.
Why are they targeting you? Why are you always in their crosshairs?
Yes.
So that is a title that will give this our show. So why are they after you?
Well, let me thank you for inviting me. Let me thank everyone who has joined us from across the world. We are also broadcasting on the side as well. So this is going far and wide to make a decision in life.
Well, I think his connection is poor.
Yes, it's spotty a little bit. His audio cut off.
No, even video has gone off.
The video is gone, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
He seems to be, please forgive us, bear with us. Our guest seems to be having a problem with his connection. I'm sure he will sort it out.
I hope they are not right there.
I hope they are not intruding.
Sabotaging. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So let me see here.
Yes, he has gone off completely now.
Completely. I don't see his video. Of course, we
Yeah.
can't hear him. So this is
Sorry,
a little bit.
can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, we can
Yes,
hear
yes,
you.
we can hear
Okay.
you now. Yes, we can hear
So
you.
let me add into the spotlight.
They
Yes.
started targeting my internet here too.
Oh, we suspected that. We thought as much.
I think when you make a decision early in life to challenge authority, and I was stating earlier that authority could mean your parents, it could mean your teachers at school, it could be your choir master. You become a target. You become a target for appraisal. You become a target for ridicule. You become a target for direct suppression and repression. And I think I started very early in life to start to question authority. My father was my teacher in primary school. And when I moved over to secondary school, my father also became my teacher. And I challenged him. There was a day he was supposed to pay the Parents Teacher Association's fees, and he was also the person in charge of flogging kids who didn't pay. So he lined us up and pretended as if he didn't see me. He was flogging everybody when it was my turn. I looked at him and said, "What are you doing? How can you flog me? You're my father. What, you are the one who's supposed to pay the school fees." He didn't find it funny. He doubled uh, my cane strokes. But I've always had that streak in me because I experienced police repression, and I've spoken about this very to many people early in life in Nigeria when I was about 9 to 10 years old in 1980. And it was there that I internalized the decision that I would, when I have a chance, challenge authority at any level and at every level. So to answer your question very quickly, the moment you start doing this and you've done several challenge against authority, they place a target on your back. And I think I was having this conversation with Femi Falana one day, who has been my longtime lawyer, that it gets to a point where you challenge the Nigerian authorities and you become a historical enemy of the state. It's like they will place a file somewhere. Whomever comes just becomes your enemy. And I remember Babangida one time when he was asked, I think it was a Tell magazine interview, why he jailed Gani Fawemi when he came into power. Having been the one who released him when Buhari, I think they released them when Buhari was overthrown. He said, "Well, everybody jailed him, so I might as well just do that." So that was a simple explanation. I think people like us uh, feature in that category where whomever comes to power, I just feel like this guy, his own is too much. We got to deal with him. Let's jail him. Let's hand his ass to mosquito. Like Fela used to say, beat him up, rough him up. The goal, of course, is to ensure that you don't do to their own regime what you
Mm, mm, mm,
to do to the last regime. No matter whether you have Farooq Kperogi, who is writing Sowore, who challenged them by creating the worst in their mind newspaper online that exposed them. Um, they place the target on your back. And I want to say also that in my recent, brush with the law or authorities in Nigeria, I have come to find out that the unforgivable sin, they sin against what they call the sin against the Holy Spirit, right? To them, it's Sahara reporters, they just can't get over the fact that I left this country after I was in the university. They should have killed me in the university, but they didn't. We didn't allow you to graduate. You graduated. We didn't give you NYC certificate so that you won't find a job. You left the country because now you came back and you don't have. You got to the US, went and obtained your masters, and then you created, in their view, what is a nuclear bomb
mm,
against corruption, which is their lifestyle, which is Sahara reporters. So everywhere I get to these days, it's always, oh, Sahara reporters did this against me. The IGP told the officer he told to arrest me last time that I wrote a story against him when he was a small officer at the police college. So that he has not forgiven me from that. The guy who he sent to meet me and interrogate me, who ruffled me up the next morning, Akin Fakorede said, "Oh, when I was in River State with Amechi and we're fighting against Wiki, you were always writing something against us, against me. I still have a whole file. But that's not the reason why this, is because this time around you committed cyber crime." So I'm just giving you that my crime went from being physical to becoming a digital historical crime against them. And I think it's because in the past, when we started the fight against them, appear in newspapers. Anybody who doesn't go to the library can find the newspaper. But now there's archives and archives of stories of corruption against them. And this can be read by anybody. There are people who we wrote stories against. They didn't have kids 19 years ago. Their kids are now going to university and they go and Google their father's name. So their father is a thief. They get home and say, "Daddy, you didn't tell me you're a thief." They said, "Where did you find the SAR reporters?" "Okay, if I catch Sowore one day, I'll deal with him." So in addition to the fact that you're still challenging authorities, you're fighting for workers, you're fighting for the rights of students, you're fighting for the rights of lecturers. These are struggles that they thought had disappeared completely. And then we came and reignited that. And then you start breeding all these younger, revolutionary young people who are challenging authority. So I just think this is broadly the reason why you see them all over me. And anybody who thinks this is going to go away, just know that you don't understand the nature of power. But it's also important to tell you that they have diversified, how to deal with people like me. It has not become state and non-state actors. The state, of course, the police, the army, the DSS, whomever they can use. But they now also have non-state actors. Those are the ones that they instigate from time to time to organize protests against you. The people that they pay massively to throw you on social media. Those things are very well organized, well paid for. Go out there and target Sowore, lie against him, and convince people that he's not who he said he is. Those are non-state actors. Some of them are also state actors, but they fall in the non-state actors category that most people didn't know in the past. But I know all these things, and I just think I need to explain that to everybody that the crime against them has become historical, and the struggle is most probably going to last me my lifetime.
I know, yeah, great points there. And of course, Sahara Reporters, as we know, is offshore. So they can't intimidate and they can't shut it down. They can't intimidate people there. And so it's a nightmare for them. I've been part of some of the stories that been following those stories for a very long time.
Yeah.
So what you just said about these non-state actors got me thinking. All these years, you've been engaged in all this struggle on behalf of the Nigerian people. But a lot of people that started this struggle with you quit, gave up, were discouraged. And if you ask them, and I've asked some of them, the main reason that they give is that Nigerians don't appreciate them, that Nigerians don't appreciate what they are doing, and that in fact, some Nigerians, not only do they not appreciate them, but some Nigerians stand in the way. They stand in the way of what they are doing. Some Nigerians who potentially could benefit from this struggle are the ones sabotaging them, actively working against them. And that as they are human beings, and it can be discouraging, it can be dispiriting. But for whatever reason, you don't seem to be faced by that. So what is keeping you going, in spite of the fact that it seems like Nigerians themselves, when they look at you, I've had conversations, sometimes heated conversations, I must confess, about you with some of my interlocutors, and I've had to defend you with everything I've got. And I said, but these are citizens, regular citizens. Some of them are not even affiliated with the government. So, and you are doing something that I see as something that could potentially benefit them. So this level of ingratitude or lack of appreciation doesn't seem to faze you. Why?
Well, I think anybody who is engaging in a struggle at the scale that I've been involved in it must have thought it out well that it's a thankless job. I knew it long time ago. I found out that it's a thankless job when we were first expelled at the University of Lagos in 1992 by the Vice Chancellor and Babangida. And we had done the Babangida Must Go protests in 1992, and we were all attacked, and the university was closed down. They came and forced us out, arrested some people, Mayegun, and then they picked Beko and the rest of them outside. And when we when the protest was very harsh, the Babangida regime actually released what this thing they call palliatives now. He started it. Started donating buses to the NLC, increase in allowances for police and all that. And I remember being arrested and going to police. And the police were so bitter towards us. They were beating us like dogs. And we said, look, we just fought for you. We're fighting for your future. They said, no, well, you're not fighting for our future. You're armed robbers. We are trying, then later they said we're trying to overthrow the government. So I then thought that when we applied to the justice system, the Lagos High Court, to ask the university to reverse our expulsion, we will get a judge who says, look, we saw you fighting for democracy. But the judge was lampooning us, one Justice Kashington, and saying that, in fact, if he has his way, he will shave all of our heads and he will flog us. But at any rate, as a judge, is not allowed to do that. But if we want to get readmitted to the university, we should forget about using his court to reverse our admission, our expulsion. He will take us to the Vice Chancellor on Friday in a mosque, at the National Mosque in Lagos then, or the Central Mosque in Lagos. We'll go and prostrate and beg in front of the Chief Imam of Lagos. And we said, what? It was the first shock I had from the judiciary. So he never granted us an ex parte motion we applied for to get back to school. He was just lampooning us. So we stopped going. When they reopened the school, we met at Becko's house or office, or the office of the Campaign for Democracy in those days, number 8 in Maria Street. And I told the guys, I said, why are you guys wasting your time? Let's mobilize all the students. When we get back, we shut down the school. If they reopen the school and the classes are not happening, this university, we know we are not playing. And that's what we did, and that's how we were reabsorbed back on campus. But even as we were reabsorbed back on campus, those of us who led the struggle were discriminated against by some students. They kept saying, oh, those, they call us layabouts, Aluta people. They don't want us to graduate, so don't vote for them. So I won the student union election barely. I remember I won by 888 votes. And the guy who was next to me almost defeated me. His name is Bodunde. He was an SU guy, what they call the Scripture Union guy, Believers Love Word. He almost defeated me, and he was opposed to protest. So we won, and then every other thing that happened after then was one ungratefulness to the other. Not at least, when you're on campus, you expect students who would understand the system better. To the point that I was almost killed by students in 1994, student cultists. And I was fighting to ensure court guys don't kill the student. In fact, throughout my tenure at the University of Lagos, no cultist was able to kill a student. There was a day I had to go and collect a grenade from a guy who wanted to come and bomb the campus. They wanted to bomb a cult meeting, and we heard about it. We got the grenade from him, took it to the police. The police released him the next day. We saw him on campus. We ran to the police station at Sabo. Why did you release this guy? He said it's a smoke, it's a smoke bomb, it's not a grenade. Oh, wow. We said, so there's a difference between a grenade and a smoke bomb. We said, yes, if you had unleashed it or not, you just have released smoke on campus. But this was a high profile grenade that could have killed students. But it was because the students were complacent, and a lot of students were complicit. So what I'm trying to say is that, having found out early in life that this is an ungrateful job, I started studying the life of others who do this ungrateful work. Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, how they ended their lives. And I remember in reading Nelson Mandela's work, and also reading works of, even books written by people as he was in detention for 27 years, There was a time that South Africa forgot about him. And you could find that if you read the book by this comedian from South Africa, Noah. He's the one who was doing the show in the US. I forgot his name.
Yes, Noah.
Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah, yeah.
You read his autobiography. You know that he was born at the time that South Africa did not know who Mandela was. So, but to us in Nigeria, we thought Mandela was in the heart of South Africans on a daily basis. There was a whole generation that didn't know about Mandela. It wasn't until he was then released that is, oh, you know, or maybe something just happened someday and they say, oh, there's a guy called Mandela in prison. Oh, really? And everybody started struggling for it. Of course, it was an international struggle. I'm giving all this background so that you know that at the point I had to also introspectively look into the lives of other people who have done this thankless job before. But I realized long time ago that it's a thankless job. That I'm doing this. I'm not hoping that anybody will come and care about me. You know, it's never been done historically that people who do things like that at our scale appreciate, and it's for a number of reasons. Even the people who you think are activists don't necessarily like you because they look at it and say, are you the only person here? You know, and some it's about they are doing the activism that is dragging them along. They don't want to do critical activism. They don't want to be all that in the face, especially with the whole civil society dimension to activism where you bring your own activism that doesn't conform with the textbook activism that they have been told is the one that works. They hate you for it. And I say this because there was a day I was at the DSS when I was detained in 2019. And then there was a press conference by CSOs, and I was watching it because I came to pick food between 4 and 5 p.m. Every day. And I was watching it. They kept the station on. I think they did it on purpose. And I saw the press conference. There were about 40 CSO people there. And they declared a protest. The DSS guy told me, he said, if 5 of these people go to your protest tomorrow, we will release you. And lo and behold, the protest that happened following that was only Deji, and that was the day Deji was almost killed by some non-state actors. And then they released me a few days later. No, and I think I was released the day after, not because of the protest, because there had been another protest in front of the DSS that DSS brutalized some activists and CSO working together, but because the American ambassador came to Nigeria, the new one at that time, went to see Buhari and presented to Buhari a demand by the senator of my part of the world in New Jersey, Menendez, who is now been jailed for corruption, and the House of Rep member, Gottheimer. And they said if Sowore was released, there was a 300 million naira they wanted to release to the Nigerian government, which was process of corruption from Abacha or Bagudu, and they won't release it. And when Buhari saw that $300 million was going to be held up because of me, they said he lied. He said, no, is that guy still in detention? Go and call everybody. And they called everybody, and that was when they came to detention to ask me to leave. So I'm just explaining all these things to you. I know it might be all over the place, but again, it comes back to the fact that anybody who's going to be doing this don't have any expectations. None whatsoever. I don't think that anybody loves you. And those people who then go and join the government are people who have expectations. They have expectations that, you know, people will be throwing flowers at them and roses, and, you know, there will be red carpet. The moment the red carpet don't come, they go and join government. But there are also those who genuinely feel that it's not worth it to die for Nigerians. Because yes, there are human beings in other parts of the world, and they have these attributes. But the attributes of Nigerians as a people, they are special. We have to say that. Nigerians are people who largely are in love with their oppressors, either by way, I don't know whether it is a culture or it is just complicity or just these years of, you know, they've beaten them down so well that they don't know any other thing than to just celebrate the person who somehow has succeeded in beating them down the most. And they will steal from them. You bring out the information, they will still go back and fit these people. I remember Ibori when he came back from detention. After we worked on his corruption case, everybody in Nigeria was waiting for Ibori from London. You think that he went and picked up the Nobel Prize and he was returning home. The biggest priests were waiting for him. Everybody was there to welcome him. They were fighting, police, DSS. Everybody was fighting to be noticed by him when he came. That's the nature of Nigeria, at least Nigeria of today. So it is those things that make some people just look at it and say, they just look at time and say, how many years I have to live on earth? Why don't who died for their oppressors? So you can understand that human psyche of some people who have fought, because Nigeria will point you to Fela 1 second, they point you to Ghani, they will point you to all the people who have died young. In fact, Nigeria is such a place that if you are too good, you are likely to die young. You understand? And if you are bad, you are likely to last long. The examples all over the place. The Obasanjos, they don't die. The Babangiras, they might be bent over, but they keep living. The Abdul Salamis, maybe what killed Buhari could have been some carelessness. But, even his people said he lived longer than they expected. So, because Nigeria has the way of prolonging the life of bad people and destroying and reducing the life of good people. That has been our experience, at least on the political space.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that, Moses?
Go ahead, please.
The first time I met Sowore was in 1994. And he described that incident. That was at Unilag.
Yes.
He was doing a protest against secret cult guys.
Yes.
And I recall being fazed. I was like, that was very dangerous. How could you do that? And that's why many years later, when Mike Okiro, the IG of police, called you a secret cult guy, that's why I laughed out so loud, because there was no one who was harder on the secret cult guys at Unilag than you. And I recall you making a speech where you were invoking geography metaphors, because you were studying geography, and the vice chancellor at the time, Alao, I think,
was also a geographer.
was a geographer. So you're making reference, you say that Alao could relate to this metaphor because it was a geography metaphor, and those secret cult guys were almost half naked, and you were parading them on the campus.
Yes.
That's one incident. And then the other one, I recall what it was. I don't recall what it was, but you were injected with poison.
That was when I was attacked by them.
Okay. I think maybe that was shortly after that attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then there have been several. In my book, I recorded an instance. I think that was during the about IBB must go thing, where almost everyone was shot dead except you and maybe one other person. So you have had this close.
That was the Abacha was passing the Ikorodu Road, and they just opened fire on everybody on the Ikorodu Road during the years. Yes.
Yes. So you've had these close shaves with death, and on a human interest level, you have your mom, your brother died a few years ago, and I watched a video of you, I think a few days ago, which I shared with my colleagues, where you're talking about your mom having suffered a stroke.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
Something as a consequence. So I'm asking, are there no moments when you tell yourself, look, I'm not just endangering my life, I'm endangering the life of people who are very dear to me, your mom, your brothers, and maybe you are tempted to give up and say, look, this is an unsalvageable situation. And then the second one to that is, what do you say to people who say this guy has a death wish, that sort of thing? You see death, you confront it frontally, you survive, but most other people would have said, well, that was close. I won't do that again. I won't go back. But you keep going. What is it that, so these two things, don't you have concerns about, your loved ones, your parents, and then what is it that pushes you to do it in spite of all of these close shaves there? During Buhari's time, when you were injected, I saw that video. I really was on that case because that was the moment I really, really came close to thinking that we were going to lose you. And I got very emotional and was really into publicizing it, including in so many other things. So I yield to you to respond to
Well,
this.
it comes back to this connection with the struggle from the beginning, earlier times in life, and how I view oppression and how I view my role in ending oppression. Uh, and I think over time, you continue to build on whatever it is that's pushing you because of conviction. And my own conviction is that, look, you live in a society where things could be working. And I had a reverse experience. When I mean reverse experience, that when I traveled to the US, naturally everybody who traveled to the US just want to stay there and enjoy life, right? But the way I saw the US is, oh my God, look at how people built this place, And I'm looking at the people who made it happen, the slaves who were brought, who built all those great places, the guys who had to die for civil rights. That's how I think. To the point that one of the first places I traveled to, almost by accident, in the US when I arrived freshly, was to Selma, Alabama, where I'd met this young lady who was telling me about the Petra Bridge or so that Martin Luther King came. And I fell in love with the place, even though the place looks like Oshodi. It was the poorest part of US, Alabama. They still like hang their clothes on, on the lines like we do back home, and they still do like old time farming and all that. But I fell in love with the place. I was always thinking that, oh, look at it. Maybe we could just make our country good like this. Like, I want to ride on a road that's free, great, that has electricity. So when everybody was looking at US and like, oh my God, this is one of, this is God's own country. I realized that the people of the US don't call their country God's own country, by the way, because they know it's too much hand of the devil in the place for them to call it a God's own country. So, but I was looking at it from the point of what is it I can learn and experience and bring home. And there was also a part of me that was guilt when I had traveled to the US. I always felt like I abandoned the struggle. I remember when I had a chance to return back to Nigeria in 2003, I was just in a hurry. Most of you would have experienced this, to see all our old friends and activists, where I did now. I was so disappointed. Nobody was doing activism anymore. In fact, a friend of mine called me and said, don't carry that thing you took away, because Nigeria is a better place now. Nobody has time for all this. Don't go and criticize government. It was the time the Obasanjo regime was still lying to people. I think Bola Ige was Minister of Power. They went and cranked up electricity just to impress people, and everything fell apart eventually. But no, I didn't find an iota of activism anymore. I went to the CLO. Nobody was talking activism anymore. There was OPC, and I saw Dr. Fashion protesting for Obasanjo's second term in front at Toyota. And I went to a June 12th event. Everybody was trying to support Obasanjo. I was heartbroken. So I had to return to the US. So it was when I returned to the US that the idea of I got a job at the Catholic Charity in 2005, I think, or 2004, after I returned to Nigeria. And by 2006, the idea of a website has been building in my head. And you guys know that I met Elendu Report. But before Elendu, I was writing, I was a greeter for The Guardian on weekends. But the guy called me one day and said, after I interviewed Kanu, this Ojius or Kanu, where he told me that Obasanjo is a criminal, and I published it, and Kanu on national TV was denying it, that I lied, that I made up the story. He doesn't know who Sowore is. And I was in the country, so I had to leave. I said, these people, this country has changed. It's been taken over by criminals. So, but I met a Lendu. We did a Lendu for a while, and then started doing Sahara Reporters. after that, and it worked very well. Most people don't know, but some of you here, Farooq, Moses, all of us were part of the shadow board of Sahara Reporters, just working on a lot of ideas and reporting and how to sustain reports, because these things that are happening now started happening to us first, but it wasn't on Twitter or Facebook. There used to be all these Yahoo groups of Nigerians where they will come and lie about you. They will say this report is not true. They will say you are making it up. Then we migrated to Nigeria Village Square. I'm sure John was there. And I struggled to put my story there. And then the owner will yank it off and say, no, I don't. Then he later confessed that he was relatives to some of the people we were writing about. But that's the question. That's the story for another day. But to come back to your question, so I don't look like I completely digress. Sometimes I feel like it's unfair to my relatives, what they go through. I think I've made up my own mind that, Kesera, Sarah, whatever will be. But to have your brother killed and in a way that you can't explain, of course, breaks. My mom had stroke the day the DSS came and abducted me in court. She was at CNN granting an interview. She finished the interview according to my brothers. And then as they were thanking, they were saying to her, your son has been released. Right there, one of my younger ones whispered into her ears and said he's been rearrested. And they said that was the last time they saw her, a normal person. Because I was restricted to Abuja, I couldn't see my mom. Maybe if I had seen her immediately, I could have figured. So it took us a year to figure out that she had stroke. It was when I asked my younger ones to take her to the hospital. I think I fed Babalola University Teaching Hospital in Ekiti. They did a scan on her head and discovered that she had had stroke for a whole year. At that time, it was almost too late to start to rectify. She's completely paralyzed now. She can't talk. She doesn't recognize us anymore, but she's just there. So, and then you look at it and say, I have wife, I have kids. I left my children when my daughter was 13. She got into college 2 weeks ago. I was supposed to accompany her to college. I wasn't there. I was supposed to be on her day of graduation. They had seized my passport again since January. So I'm supposed to take because I only spent some 8 months with them in 2024. I don't think it was even 8 months. I was still returning to Nigeria to answer to some other charges because I didn't want to get the impression that I've disappeared, I've absconded. So I'm stuck here again since December of 2024. And then I'm getting rearrested again. They're jumping into my cell, to torture me again. Things that you would think will not happen again in Nigeria. You are finding DSS writing to Facebook, Twitter to take down your account. They have charged me to court now. Again, I'm going to be in court on Tuesday. As we speak, they have another plot completely that was unraveled to me today. How, and you of course know what the landlord in Abuja is doing, doing everything they can to just blackball me into out of existence. And I'm sure they will take whatever next steps they can if they find the opportunity presentable. So I feel, I would say I feel more of guilt, and sometimes the kind of guilt that makes you feel like, oh, maybe you are not as responsible as you should be. But there's always something that I look at, which is the other side of it, that, maybe somebody has to do this. And maybe this is a privilege. I should take this as a privilege that I'm able to even do anything for a country of 200 million people, that I can stop a guy going to jail. If I wasn't there, maybe he would be forgotten in jail. I can stop maybe a local official from stealing everything that belongs to everybody, even though they will steal it again. So there's also a point of privilege that you look at it. And sometimes it's just about, you look at it. So that's the part of me that probably, even though I'm non-religious, that's religious. I said to myself, maybe, my father didn't make a mistake naming me Stephen, I just came here to come and tell these people the truth. Maybe one day they just kill me. I don't know, but it's deeper than that sometimes. So, but it's just how I have processed this broadly. Yeah. And I know that if they've had their way, they would have killed me a long time ago. I don't have any doubt that the idea of killing Sowore has crossed so many of them, it crossed the mind of so many of these guys. I know how they think, and you can tell the way they react to you sometimes, that the only option, they're close to that option. So but it's an unraveling too, that I just find myself to be a lucky person that I can unravel a lot of things in my society. And sometimes I look at it and say, what if all of these I'm not an activist and I still go to jail anyways? You know, there are people who go to jail for committing no crime, and you don't even get to hear about them. You don't get to know about them. They didn't fight anybody. And then you look at it and say you could have died too. People die every day in this country. People die in accidents. There are buses that plunge into the river on our roads and nobody even tried to rescue. Nobody even tried to they just look at it and see, I might be exaggerating, but we have times that buses are full of people just plunge into the river. Nobody even tried to rescue anybody. They just wish them well. So anything could potentially kill you in Nigeria. Anything could also potentially kill you in America. Um, I was saying to myself when COVID was around that maybe if I was in the US, knowing me, I would be all over the place. Maybe who knows? I got COVID. When it was potentially very deadly. Anything can happen to anybody. So that's how I see life. But if I have an opportunity, I would apologize to my family members, especially who see the burden, because sometimes I put myself in their position that if I was my wife, for instance, and every time I get a Facebook notification is, oh, they're about to kill this guy, I don't know if it's something I can handle too well. I'll care about it, because as a father of a child, and sometimes she has to watch some of those things live at 4 a.m., 2 a.m., and so it's a lot. I have to admit. And then you have children who are not, their father is not there. It's all of it is tough. I have to give it to the family side that they've done fantastically well. I mean, look at the other day, I get a call, like, oh, they have put your child's school on the internet.
I was going to ask
Yeah.
that.
And what do we do? They have to contact the police for protection, because that might be a signal that they want to target the boy. I don't even doubt that they can do it, but we're lucky that. So assuming that my children are here with me in Nigeria, imagine what these guys could have done. So because when you're fighting this kind of level of struggle, they don't even have boundaries.
And this is where I want to come in because, my book chronicled the experiences you had here. You were sued by
Oh yeah.
several government officials in the US, and the cases were, thrown away. But before that, there were all kinds of tactics to discredit you, which
Yes.
Moses wrote about once, where they looked at all of the places you had rented and said they were the houses you bought,
Houses that I owned, yes, yes,
that you
yes.
owned, and including hostels, student
Yeah.
dorm,
Columbia
and
University.
we exposed it and it became a subject of laughter. But now there's a new reiteration of that same tactic that I'm seeing from government officials, and that's what led to your son being
Yes.
exposed. And there's also it seems to me, the cultural supposition that whatever your children have, whatever your wife has to always be from you. You don't have a wife who works in a high profile job that also gets, that has sufficient resources to support whatever you do. But it's a tactic you're already used to. But I don't know if you want to address some of the issues that came up about.
So I have I was mentioning when we started that there are state and non-state actors involved. One of the tactics that they started using very early was not only to discredit you, but to discredit you to those who might be supporting you. So, for instance, a lot of these American support groups that we have for Sahara reporters, they hate lawsuits. Everybody who lives in America know nobody likes lawsuits. And under Jonathan, Reno Mockery started getting lawyers to threaten. He didn't threaten Sahara. He knew he couldn't sue Sahara reporters. He never did. He would never try it. But he started threatening to sue Ford Foundation and I think Omidyar Foundation. And they were alarmed. In fact, Ford Foundation in 2015 stopped funding Sahara reporters because of threats of lawsuits. But not only were they doing that, they were also online blackmailing them that in supporting Sahara reporters, they were supporting terrorism in Nigeria. Then they engaged in a lot of slaps. These are strategic lawsuits against public participation. That's what they're called in the US. So you had pastors suing me. There was a guy that sued me, and we were in court for 4 years. That was Emeka Ogwonye. The guy was exposed for selling Nigerian embassy at below normal prices. And had it been that the work we were doing wasn't legit, they would have bankrupted Sahara reporters and myself as far back as 2009. Because if you know about lawsuits, even if a lawsuit lasts for 2 weeks, you're not spending less than $10,000. But I was lucky that a lot of those lawsuits, I was able to get big law firms that were doing pro bono work, some of them to write off their taxes. And we got people who were in touch with them, who were in love with Sahara reporters' work. So we were able to get lawyers across boards who did pro bono work for Sahara reporters. And I think we went through about 6 lawsuits, including the last one that was dismissed. They had actually, that was the woman Lillian Ono, who used to be an ambassador to Namibia. She had actually obtained a default judgment against me because I was not in the US. So I arrived in the US in February. The day I arrived, I saw a bailiff waiting on the corner. I said, "Oh, you, Mr. Sowore, welcome. I thought he wanted to greet me. He served me with a lawsuit, took a picture of me." So I had to come back to Nigeria a few months later. Hadn't found a lawyer. She went to court and obtained a judgment against me. So it was when I returned to the US that I found lawyers who then, first of all, we had to clear the default judgment. And then we put in our defense and she lost. But if you look at the internet yesterday, she wrote an article saying that what the police accused me of was true. And what the reason she sued Sahara reporters, she was applying for asylum and she wanted to claim that Sahara reporter somehow was complicit in bed with Nigerian government. If she comes to Nigeria, they'll kill her. Yes. There was a guy who sued us, Paul Ori, in Texas in those days. He sued me under Yaradua.
That guy.
Because he wanted to get a NAFDAC job. And he got it. Right? The moment he got a NAFDAC job, he abandoned the lawsuit. He came to Nigeria, looted NAFDAC, and he became rich. He was Anduaka's friend. He was the attorney general then. There was a guy in New York who was a Deeper Life pastor. He sued me, but unluckily for him, he had gotten other issues. He had gotten involved in other issues. Those ones had some connection with the police. Got him arrested. I think maybe now he's out of jail. He was the one who duped the woman, 73-year-old, of her house and sold it by posing as the buyer and the lawyer at the same time. So then, there's several other threats, but I want to talk about Reno Mockery. Reno Mockery started that whole thing. So, and then it was followed by Saraki. When we brought Sahara Reporters Media Foundation in 2016 to Lagos, they had already planned in the wait for us. They were happy that, Sowore is coming to Nigeria. Before I knew it, one guy came there and attacked me physically. I ended up in the police station. Police wanted to turn the case against it 2016. Followed by that, we did a story on this guy, Nigerian Army guy for buying houses in Dubai, Buratai, and how he was using a colonel to go and pay for the house. This Buratai hired a lawyer for the guy who attacked me, and he sued me. And after it took me, I think it was this year that the lawsuit was dismissed in Lagos. So all of that, they also work with Saraki. Saraki got a judge in Kwara State to freeze Sahara Reporters. They gave a judgment without hearing from us. They froze our account, the Media Foundation, for a whole year, $200,000, before we were able to get the Court of Appeal to unfreeze the account. You know, the people who gave the money as a support were scared. They said he was Senate president at that time. So, but not only were they doing that, they were on a daily basis attacking Sahara Reporters. They had all these Twitter trolls, you know, lying against Sahara Reporters. Sahara Reporters is extorting people, blackmailing people. Same thing they're doing now. Until Saraki was defeated. In fact, it was our case against him that led him to lose in Kwara State. That's where they started Otoge, when some students went to court and fought physically on behalf of Sahara Reporters against Saraki. The people of Kwara took inspiration from that and started a movement they called Otoge against him. That was what got rid of Saraki in Kwara politics, Sahara Reporters. But he had done the damage at that point. So to just wrap it up quickly there, they do all kinds of things. They mix it all together, you know. It's a whole strategy and it's well funded. Even some of the people on the obedience side, you know, they do that. So, you know, one of them started that Sowore is a CIA agent, you know, and the goal again is to present you as who you are not, so that the public will hate you, you know, and if possible, people can just lynch. They are happy people can lynch you on the streets, literally, based on all this. Yes, it is part of the strategies. Like this Sowore, we can't kill him, but maybe we can push the, you know, some people, some crazy people to just kill him for us, you know, because if someone says to the world that, oh, you are CIA agent, there's the likelihood that somebody who is patriotic might say, oh, Sowore is here to destabilize the country on behalf of the CIA. And I was asking myself, maybe I should call the CIA to be sending my checks because, yeah. So but it's part of the strategy, you know. People will just cook up lies against you. And you guys, interestingly, were there at the early stages of Sahara Reporters, and you know what we went through in those days. In fact, a part of the reason we decided not to use bylines was all this. And it was one of the best decisions we made. And the reason we couldn't have what we could technically call a board, because if we had any board member, they can't reach Sowore, they'll reach the board member. One day the board member will say, Sowore, I'm tired of this. Maybe they'll go and burn his house. Or they would have sued other board members. And the legal impact, I mean, the cost of defending themselves, they will never want to be part of this anymore. That's why we had a lean operation from the beginning, so that we narrowed their target. And at the end of the day, the target narrowed to me. And that's just coming from left, right, and center. But there are several other things. As we speak, there are over probably 15 lawsuits at the FCT court alone against our reporters. I think there's some lawsuits. These days, they just don't even serve us the proceedings anymore. They just go to court and have it. There was a senior advocate of Nigeria, Yusuf Ali, who won a case at the FCT court against our reporters. And he claimed that we were served on Twitter. And the judge gave a judgment on him. the Judge Justice Kekemeke, and the judge was raking in the court as if. Turns out he had a problem with me. He's 15 minutes from my village in Ondo State. So we had done a story about somebody from their village who was involved in this earpiece saga. And so they hold that against, and they said there was a story written about the wife of that same person, and it prevented her from becoming a judge. So he held that against me and allowed somebody to serve Sahara reporters on Twitter. There's no even evidence that I saw the they created a Twitter account they call, I forget, Twitter bailiff. And they started using it to serve the proceedings of, and they were sending it to the court as evidence of service. So it's so many, like if I were to write a book, I'll write a book separately about my life, and I'll write one for Sahara reporters.
Yep.
And because it will not make sense to combine those two things together at all. Yes.
Moses, you are muted. It looks like you are talking, but I can't hear you. It doesn't show you are muted, but I can't. Uh-oh. I can't hear Moses, but he's talking. But can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you well. Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you, but I can't hear Moses, though.
Me too, I can't hear Moses.
Yes.
Maybe
Also,
I don't know.
Moses.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
So I was going to say that in the US, they say they are throwing a lot of things on the wall to see which one will stick.
Yes.
Yeah. I like what you said about little victories, though, Sowore. These little victories. Somebody has been languishing in jail for 3 months somewhere in one little corner, has been forgotten about. You go there, you intervene because of your profile. They are scared and they release him. There are so many cases like that. Somebody is being oppressed, the family is being ejected unlawfully somewhere, and they have nowhere to go. You go there, you leave whatever you are doing, you go there, you fight for them, you give them a voice, and somehow they get justice in that little way. So these are little small victories, and I think that as you were speaking, I was thinking
we're
about
not here to count victories because the
Mm.
battle is not even over.
Yeah.
For example, I fought for policemen in this country. I fought for people I hate, and I don't lie about it. I don't like the police.
Yeah.
After we had that struggle, 29,000 policemen who had not been promoted for 8 years were promoted. One fell through. And some senior officers that had been there who refused to leave, we forced them out. But do you know who they targeted? Me. They went and charged me again afresh for mutiny. They claimed that I was inciting policemen to mutiny. But I'm happy that I can do that for policemen. I can do something that important for policemen that I don't even like, because this is the job of an activist, is to speak up for anybody without regards to race, orientation, ethnicity, or their job, which is we just stand up for whomever can stand up for themselves. If you want to count victories, we can count democracy as our victory. It was big that at young age we confronted the military and we brought about democracy. But the Nigerian democracy you have today is not the type that you can go and hang on the wall. I mean, tell people that I fought for this democracy. I tell my children that I'm the one who fought for all these crazy people. Say that there's something wrong with you.
So I want Dr. Osmond to come in. I want to bring Osmond in, but I just want to say one little thing before Osmond comes in. As you were speaking earlier about what keeps you going and what inspires you, this thing is, we've been fighting this struggle for so long, for decades. If only there were concrete changes that we could point to in Nigeria, improvements, then maybe that can inspire you, no matter how little. If only electricity worked better, if only the country was better connected with maybe a transportation network, one sector, not even, we have lowered our expectations, but if only something, we could see something that somehow had gotten better. But it doesn't seem like that's happening. So that's why Farooq and I will just keep wondering what keeps Sowore going, because for all these decades, the country seems to be getting worse in terms of all the indicators of development. But I don't want to
think
preempt
about it.
Dr.
Yeah,
Osman's
I
question.
know Osman wants to comment, but you
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
Think about in Nigeria with no activists, where you'll be today.
Yeah.
Some of you that are abroad, you cannot even try to come home. You would have given up on coming home because this place would have become a Jurassic Park where they can just do whatever they want. And that's the country they want. So there's still a barrier that keeps Nigeria somehow sane, you have to give it to whomever stands up against these guys.
Yeah.
Any little way they do it, whether it's massive, little, or not, you have to, because you see, you can also say that about people who died in the US. You can say that about Malcolm X, that at the time he was killed, there hasn't been much achievement, right?
Yeah.
By the
Yeah,
time
that's
Martin
true.
Luther King died, sanitation workers were still fighting for minimum wage. So, and they didn't achieve that, even though they tried their best. So, but I think there's a lesson to learn from there that maybe also we must look at, we might be able to look at it and say maybe it's inspiring people to speak up more.
Yeah.
Maybe this will bring about a new generation of Nigeria. The operating word is maybe.
Yeah,
So, well, let's take Osman, please.
Osman, yes, please come in.
Yes, thank you guys so much. I have to apologize. It's almost like the whole universe conspired to make sure I'm not part of the show. But I swear that I must make it happen. So I apologize because I'm using my cell phone. Yeah, the laptop just wouldn't connect. But anyway, I think I join others in thanking you, Sowore, for gracing this show. We know you're a hot commodity, so having to corner it's not a mean feat. But so I think a few months ago, I wrote some glowing tributes about you. Somebody called it a hagiography. I think Chidi Odinkalo made it go viral. And I was so mad because I was expecting you to call me and maybe send me some of those money you make in Sahara Reporters as a thank you, but it never happened. So I threatened to join the obedience in dragging you down. But some council of elders called me and said, okay, I shouldn't do that. So I piped down. But anyway, I want to thank you. I think I'll be saying the mind of most Nigerians when I say that we are in awe of your extraordinary courage. You could have easily joined the bandwagon of politicians we have in Abuja, live in gilded mansions, and live happily thereafter. But that's not the life you chose. You chose to be the man in the arena. And for that, you've been typhoon blasted. Yeah. But I'm going to pivot a little bit. There was a time you showed up at Dr. Damage's show, and we had some kind of discussion. It's something along that line. Now, there is Omoyele Sowore, the activist, which everybody knows. And then there is other part of you that is a politician. So as an activist, nobody needs to recount what you've done. I think it's common knowledge. I see you, as many others, as somebody who is in the arena to sensitize the conscience of a nation that is deep in trouble. Whether it's your campaign, whether it's everything else you do every day. You talked about your work with the police and the rest of them. It's a testament to extraordinary courage. So I'll say that you've done so wonderfully well, and we continue to thank you for your service. Now, there is this part of you about being a politician, which maybe I could say that you haven't been that successful. You've contested for the nation's top judge. I think it's twice. You didn't really make much dent. It was more like you were just there on the scene. And a big part of it, I believe, is the fact that you've been fighting everybody. You just don't fight those in government. You've always been in this fight. And part of being a successful politician is that you have to know how to build coalition. Because in a generation, I don't know how many Sowores we can have. And if at the end of the day, your activism doesn't translate to the bigger picture. I mean, we've already achieved a lot, like we've mentioned. But I think at the end of the day, what if we're going to be able to make the desired changes? It has to be that this activism transitions to coalition building, to the fact that we can now effectively change the status quo. Otherwise, we'll be able to make some little gains, but to get the big picture of actually changing the leadership in Nigeria, as a politician, you have to know how to build bridges. And that doesn't mean to say that you have to look for angels to do that. Because I don't think, even America here, I don't believe that politicians are angels. But there's also in the fox to be able to catch the fox. And I don't mean that you have to be a corrupt Nigerian to do that, but you have to find a way. We believe that you have to find a way of, building that critical mass of people who, even though they don't buy into your ideology 100%, will be able to make that mass to be able to actually take a big bite on the status quo and maybe change it. Otherwise, it will just be I don't want to say all noise, but it would just be at the end of the day, the overriding picture, the overriding goal that you should emanate, that you should lead this movement to be able to achieve something, will just be shot. Let me not push it too much, but I would like you to, dwell in terms of going to do or what you plan to do. Do you plan to pivot and at least make a tweak modus operandi?
Well, thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your submission. I know exactly where you're coming from. I know where you're headed. So these questions come to me all the time. And I live, interestingly, in the midst of the people you are referring to. I live these days in Abuja by court order. So I get to see them. I pass their houses. Most of the time, I see them at conferences, and I can tell you that the number of Nigerians who are not politically active are 3 times more than the number of Nigerians who are politically active. What I'm saying is that there are 83 million registered voters, if you want to believe in INEC register, and only about 25 million of them voted or has ever voted in the history of this country. The last election, there were even less voters. You can see that from the records of the winners. But the question to ask you is that, have you suddenly started to believe in INEC figures for you to say categorically that I didn't make a dent in the last election or the last 2 elections? If we believe in INEC figures, then we shouldn't go to court when INEC announce their selected candidates. I am not in any way suggesting that I got millions of votes, no, but it is not me that needs to change. It is Nigerian people that needs to build a coalition of the oppressed. It is not Sowore that needs to go to people who are stealing to say, well, let's cover our nose. Because it's the same suggestion you are giving now that the likes of Kenyamo took. You know where they are today. Or maybe they've always somehow admired the politicians that we used to think we all hated, and we don't know. Because there was a Professor Mamdani, not the one that's running for mayor. I think that's his son
Father.
at
Yeah,
Columbia
that's the father.
University. Yes.
Frozen.
Yes, he used to say to us at Columbia, he's a brilliant speaker. He said sometimes politically, you should be careful of the people you hate. Because most African politicians who claim they hate bad politicians are actually aspiring to become those politicians. They envy their big cars, they envy their big mansions, they envy their very corrupt ways. But on the surface, they'll say, no, that person is a bad person. That person is a bad person. The reason I'm saying this is that the question you ask yourself is, why does anybody still go to Babangida's house, in every election? Why do people still go to Obasanjo's house to go and seek his permission to run for election? Considering where they have put Nigeria, it is because of the character of, one, our politics, and character of our politicians. And I want to also say that an activist is a politician as well. In fact, I have been part of every political act in this country, but I didn't join the political scene until 2018. But there's no political era that I wasn't a major part of. I was part of the people that fought for June 12th. I was part of the people that fought against Totem. All of us that are here were part of the people that fought against Yaradua's family. They call it Yaradua Cabal, so that Jonathan could become the acting president. We are the people who were there saying that Nigeria has had democracy, must now have a party-to-party transition. All of us, there's none of these things you mentioned today in the last 20 years, or let's say the last 30 years, that I haven't been part of. But I didn't join partisan politics until 2018. And when I came to Nigeria to join partisan politics, I couldn't find a political party to join, even though there were 79 political parties. We had to go underground to form our own party to have a chance at all to partake in it. Because all the 78 political parties were demanding for monies that I could never have made my entire life. They were saying that if I want to be part of them, I have to stop abusing or insulting traditional rulers, religious leaders. They gave all those conditions, and that I cannot. One of the conditions, interestingly, was that for me to be their presidential candidate, we must go to Babangida first, we must go to Obasanjo first, and certain political big figures. So there is nothing to celebrate in these coalitions or building bridges. The people you are talking about who you want to build bridges with, they are the ones who destroyed every bridge in this country, literally. They don't believe in building bridges, except they have to build that bridge over your ambition. That's the only way they can work with you. And it is not as if we have not tried. Don't let anybody deceive you. Sometimes I go to meetings, even though I don't announce them, but as soon as I get into that meeting, when you hear what they are saying, you know that you have to have lost your mind to be part of this. When you go to a meeting and people are talking about, on the first day of the meeting, they have not even become a political, they are talking about sharing position. They're talking about contracts. How do I fit into those kind of places? It's not possible. So there are things that are practically impossible. But sometimes I make light of my situation by saying, there are some of you who talk about these things in diaspora. Maybe you want to come home too and try it and see if it works. Like, come and build bridges with Malami. Come and build bridges with El-Rufai. Be in their midst, attend all their meetings, and let's see if after you have done it for 3 months, we will still recognize you, both in character and in physical look or mental outlook, because they're not there for the people. So what I'm saying is that it is not that I don't want to build bridges. It's not. I want to build bridges. I want to work with people. I always work with people, but there are conditions that I just can't deal with. I cannot deal with somebody who says to you that electricity is not the right of the public. And that is the position of their political party or political movement. The one that says to you that, how can you be talking about free education? Are you mad? Because he had taken the money meant for the education of everybody to go and send their children to school abroad. How do you go to a meeting with a vice chancellor who was the vice chancellor of the university and his children are going to school abroad? Or the one who created a university but sent his own children to go to a university in the UK? So I want to say maybe that would help you figure this out. Like, to work with the people that you're suggesting we work with, you have to be mad. You have to you just have to walk into a place and say, look, I'm sorry, I pretended all along that I'm a good person. Now I want to be bad, and I don't care what anybody says about it. Then you will be fine. Are you getting my point? I think when I went to Dr. Damages with you, I was saying to those guys who converge on Dr. Damages that I know some of them. After they finish Dr. Damages on Sundays or whenever it's 90 minutes, if they want to travel to Nigeria, they'll be contacting me. So, is it safe to come home? I said, you are just on Dr. Damages and you are concerned. What about me that lives in the middle of inside inside the middle of lions and hyenas and all these people? So it's easy to be on, it's easy to be on the space and be pontificating about things that are going on in Nigeria. But if you want to really come and live here, and I'm not saying that it's bad to live outside, but come and live here. Come and live here for like maybe 1 year. You understand? Come and stay some 18 months here. And when everybody finishes your money, including everybody, this one, he's not even a politician now, it could be the mechanic. Everybody just come after you. Then you look at it and say, to Fiapa, I am not coming back to this country. The person you'll be upset against may not even be politicians at that time, because you have discovered that there's a different level of fraud and wickedness that is not only that politicians are just the icing on the cake. They are the one you see because they are the ones who have mastered it very well, made the money, and they are sitting on top of the heap. But underneath it too, there are a lot of enforcers, a lot of characters who are worse. Some of them are people you would call nobodies, but when they show you pepper in a few days, then you're like, oh, I can never live in this country. So forming a coalition is the easiest part. But to your question, what is the coalition going to do that will reflect your values as someone who joined politics? And I'll say one thing to you. Do you know that there's a time that I joined politics that Kingsley Moghalu joined politics? 2018, we started at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what they did to Kingsley Moghalu in 2019? They lured him with the ADC, this ADC now. They lured him to Obasanjo's farm, Obasanjo's hotel. And, after he gave his beautiful speech, the guy who was going to be president gave everybody $300. Moghalu was defeated. I don't know if he recovered from it till today. I'm not talking about George Moghalu. I'm talking about the Moghalu you interviewed. You may disagree with him, but one thing you can't take from him is that he's a bright guy. So what does that tell you? Nigeria is not meant for bright people. You get my point? We did it the same time. We were together in 2018. You're talking about my figures. Everybody was saying, Sowore cannot debate Moghalu. Of course, we debated. He knew that I wasn't a pushover. But that's not the issue. But do you know that my figures were higher than that of Moghalu in 2020? The figures you're referring to. My own figures was higher than that of Moghalu and the other non-Niger candidates combined together. The figures they allocated to me. So you are there saying, oh, you haven't made a dent. Ask what happened to Moghalu in 2019. Bright, everybody's like, Moghalu is very polished. They are looking at him. It's this one. We'll polish him.
Maybe this is time to pivot to contemporary politics.
Yeah.
I think a lot of our viewers will not forgive us if we don't sample your opinions on the coalition that is going on, and all kinds of things are shaping up. Your Sahara Reporters has reported that some guy from Kogi State, who happens to be Yoruba, has been or might be nominated as the INEC chairman. And there's a sense that this is preparatory to 2027 elections. Do you think that from the way things are shaping up, the opposition has the capacity to stop Tinubu from winning a second term? Or if not, what do you think they should do? Or do you think it's an inevitability that was just fold the arms and just roll with the punches?
I shouldn't be saying this, but I'll say it because we're friends. This election of 2027 has been decided already. Yes. And something is going to shock you. Tinubu is going to try to make the election look transparent. His goal is not to rig raising. So he's doing a lot of pre-election preparation to create an impression that there's coalition and create an impression that there is opposition. The opposition you are seeing, they handpicked the opposition themselves and put it up there, because if there's no opposition, the likelihood that Nigerian people might just wake up and follow somebody that they cannot talk to is they don't want that. They saw part of that in 2023. They weren't afraid of Peter Obi. Trust me, I can tell you that for free. Even Peter Obi did not expect that he'll go as far as he went. They were more afraid of the fact that they had a rebellion behind him, which was a tail that was wagging his dog. And that was why the moment the election was over, they did everything they can to have Peter Obi meet Tinubu at the Vatican. You get my point. They arranged that. No matter what anybody tells you, it was for them a way for Peter Obi to say, look, I recognize you as president of Nigeria in front of a pope. Otherwise, he had no business going to the Vatican. But his they will come and argue about appoints ambassadors, which is going to be one of his last minute political moves. You see, some of them might be appointed as ambassadors and they will quit the coalition. The coalition has a problem. I'll download it to you from what we know. It doesn't have any big pocket states behind it. Tinubu has already swept those ones in through EFCC. Lagos is in Tinubu's hand. Delta, it has never happened in this country before. States like Delta, Akwa Ibom, they already got rivers in a lockdown, whether Wike is there or not. In fact, they might get rid of Wike because they already have Fubara in their corner. They don't need him to change party. Political parties don't matter. Political loyalty is what is most important to them. So what Tinubu wants to do in 2027 is to do enough pre-election rigging that even the opposition that you are seeing now will now thank him on election day that this is free and fair election, or it is fairly free. So, because the international community also is interested in ensuring that some election happens in Nigeria, but we don't care whether it's free or fair. It's a shithole anyway. Anything done is acceptable to us. So, but I will say something that always been interesting about Nigeria. Nigeria has a way of just rejigging things, and it might be a natural disaster that will happen, and something will just change overnight. Except that happens, whomever Tinubu is appointed as INEC chairman is his least problem. If you want to win election in Nigeria, yes, you need INEC, but you also need INEC commissioners, federal. You also need INEC state commissioners. Tinubu has been one of the people that have elected the highest number of INEC staff in history. He met almost a clean slate, just throwing his people in there, federal. So whomever comes in now, That's not the person. The person they already put in place the fence. He's just going to be a gate man there. Then, if you all know the U.S., if a president of the U.S. wants to appoint one Supreme Court justice, the whole country will shut down. Do you know that Tinubu appointed 11 Supreme Court justices since he came? 11. Yes. And most of you don't even know their names.
Yeah.
And he needs 7 Supreme Court justices to deliver a judgment if, by any chance, litigation goes all the way to the Supreme Court. Are you getting my point? Then he's going to be contesting against people he knows how to defeat. They are friends. Whomever comes up, maybe the ADC will likely throw up Atiku, because if Atiku is not the candidate of the ADC will fall apart. Is Atiku, Mechi, people that are funding ADC. So the Labour Party has already gone. They've taken that one over. So you tell me, how is it that you defeat a guy fairly? I'm not talking about unfair. He has already dealt the unfair blow on everybody. That has Lagos in his kitty. He has Akwa Ibom in his kitty. He has Kaduna in his kitty. He practically now has Kano, because Kwakwanso is going to go to APC. Even if he doesn't leave his party, he'll be working for them. And they have Delta in their kitty. These are the richest states and the most popular states in the country. So they are going to tell you that, oh, you saw us now. We already have all these people on our side. We didn't need to rig the election. So all these people just write election figures. Amechi will tell you that's how they used to do it under Jonathan. Just write the figures. Because that person that worked for the president, the state that is in the party of the ruling party, usually don't have problem with getting logistic support. Police, army, like they used to say, if you want to win the election in Nigeria, get all the political parties, but the most important political party is the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria. That one is in the hands of the president. INEC is an appendage of the APC already. So you tell me how you are going to defeat this guy without an uprising. When I mean uprising, is that the people can also wake up and say, look, we want to go a different direction. That's where the number of the 50 million people that have never voted before comes in. There's no way the 25 million people he relies upon can defeat 50 million people. They all have voters' card, But don't forget that in addition to all this, they have also been so demoralizing voters that there's voter apathy in Nigeria today like it's never been before. So they're also counting on the fact that most people will not come out to vote, because it is more difficult when people come out to vote. So what helps you in election? Money. They've had it like they've never had before. Power, they are in power. Violence, they have both state-backed and non-state violent actors, all of them strategically placed. Today, if you want to talk about militants, they are with them. You want to talk about the Nigerian police, army, customs, anybody they need, beck and call. And most importantly, they have all the legislative, they have all the arms of government in their pocket. The judiciary is in their back pocket. The legislative arm is in their back pocket. Some of the things they will do before the election also, as part of the pre-rigging election, you see judges will just be disqualifying people if they find anybody to be difficult. Part of the reason they are targeting me now is they want at the minimum, if they can't kill me, to say that, one of these cases just go through. By the time we go to the Supreme Court, they'll say, you are a convicted felon, you can't run. Because they know that independent voices like this is attracting attention. That's why you see that the attacks are growing. They are not doing it because, I'm offending them. Calling Tinubu a criminal has never been something that Tinubu cared about. Even if you don't call him a criminal, he knows he is. There's nobody who needs to tell him that. He's been doing crime his entire life. It's a well-known fact. But in saying that, let's look at how can you call the president a criminal? They see that as a hook. Like, maybe let's exploit that, maybe it will work. We just need to slow this guy down. Oh, we have his passport, maybe we'll put him in a situation where he's completely afraid he goes underground, or maybe he'll just run away from the country of exile, and we can just declare him wanted. Until after the election, we won't see him come. He won't come and disturb us. But if he's around, who knows? These people might just follow him one day. Are you getting me?
Yeah.
Because one thing they're afraid of, I'll tell you that before Osmond has run away,
He's coming. He's on duty, so.
I know, I'm just kidding. One thing they don't want that, regardless of what they do, they don't want a restless populace. And the Nigerian youths are very restless right now.
Yeah.
And any little thing could ignite the public. Yes. So that's why I will.
They don't want someone to lead the spark.
Don't want anything that can lead to a spark.
Yeah.
Because it is that spark that will destabilize their election plans.
Yeah.
And they know that. They know that something could happen because they have pushed everybody to the wall. There's virtually no sector of this country that hasn't been pushed to the wall. Everybody. The poor has been made poorer. The rich has become more crazy, vindictive, and more oppressive. The government has become more corrupt and more insensitive. The society has broken. The Nigerian society has broken down.
Yeah.
So, and they know that. Yeah.
And that is by intent. That is my opinion. That is by intent. Yeah.
Exactly, it's intentional, because one thing we are blaming the oppressed. No. We're just doing analysis of how our society is confronting oppression, or how oppression has decimated our society and the self-esteem of our people, to the extent that people are beaten to pulp, that they can't even stand up against anything. They can't stand up for anything, but they fall for everything. That's where we are.
All right. At this juncture, we want to recognize the presence of our partners in this broadcast, the people from the Unstoppable Friends of Sowore, who usually host this weekly show, Freedom Republic Broadcast. If they are here with us, we're trying to identify.
Raise your hand so that I can make the
Daniel is Daniel here with us, who usually anchors, so that we can identify him.
They're part of our broadcast team right now, so I don't know if you'll be able to. So we had announced this at the Twitter space we did earlier. I'm sure they have joined us, but if not.
But if they are hearing me, then they can let us know, so that we can recognize them and give them a chance to maybe engage you as well. But for right now, I think maybe we'll take a couple of questions from our.
I saw Chido Numa just entered.
Yes, he's with us.
Chido keeps going in and out.
Chido, I think just joined again.
Maybe
it's Farooq, can we take a couple of? Let me see.
Okay, one of the questions that was asked, the question actually came earlier when they said no, it should be why. Instead of why they after Sowore, it should be why Sowore after them. And and then one particular question someone asked even before the show started was, what is your interest in unmasking Nyesom Wike? Because the last couple of days, they say you've exposed his financial malfeasance and so many other things that people didn't know he had committed. You reject a lot of the allegations against him. What is it about Wike that gets you so worked up and angry that you want to expose him?
I get worked up by all of them. Prior to Wike's case, I was on the case of the Inspector General of Police. I've been on it for months now over his illegalities and what he was doing. I think we just take on these people one at a time. But in the case of Wike, as you all know, I was, as I say in Nigerian parlance, minding my business in one corner. And he just jumped on my back and said, he just literally threatened to kill me. That's the way I say it. Like saying, "Oh, you know about me, calling him a criminal," and that if I'm lucky with Tinubu, I might find somebody I would not be lucky with, which I take to mean a threat, and I don't take threats lightly as well. So, but for historical reference, I was actually the first person to report Wike's corruption around 2010 when he was Amichi's chief of staff, when he had gone to convert the government house account into his own personal account and was depositing money and spending it. About 3 billion naira was found at that time in that account. That was when 3 billion was a lot of money. And the the EFCC arrested him. I reported on it, and ever since then, I have followed his political trajectory and reported a lot on Wike. So this time that he came after me, I just left everything I was doing to say, look, maybe the public needs to see his other side, which is dangerous because you can't ignore, you ignore people like Wike, not at your own peril, but at the peril of society. But it is nothing said about him that is new. It's just that it happened that at this time we're paying attention to his dealings, and just so that the public understand that the work that we committed to do when we started this transparency initiatives was to make sure that we give good people a chance to breathe in this country, and that we provide a democratic space for great people to govern and run the country. So when Wike came up, I just is a continuation of that ministry. But it's just that it was that scale because it was Wike. As a matter of fact, I've been working on governors, and it led me to even be using Hausa as my second language on my Facebook page. So I had picked on the governor of Borno State, picked on the governor of Gombe State. Yes, Bauchi. Yeah, actually started with Bauchi because he detained some professor, and his son was unraveled in the process. They had to release the person. I picked on even my own state governor, Ayedatiwa of Ondo State. So I see Wike as a state governor too. So I was going to get to him anyways in this my good governance tour that I called it at that time. So, but he came early to receive his own. So that's what happened. But nothing. I don't have anything personal against. Well, maybe it's wrong to say I don't have any. I have something personal against people who destroyed my country. I don't feel happy towards them. But he was the one who had brought the battle to my doorstep very early, without provocation. I had not reached him yet, and that threat is not something that I took lightly at all.
Well,
Okay.
I think it was, on a lighter side, maybe not on a lighter side, but he was trying to get on the good side of Tinubu. He was trying to do eye service, as we call it in Nigeria.
But
And using
I
you as
service, but also it could be that he went to Tinubu and said, "Look, leave this boy for me to handle," and just thought that it was one. If you recently have followed him in his outburst, the number of people that he had issues with, he would just so you came to my house to eat, they'll shut up. So say he hasn't paid taxes, all those. But I know he had a personal issue with Sahara reporters reporting on his trip, his latest vacation. He wasn't happy about it. So there must have been a foundation of grudge. And I think maybe it's been carried over for years. And he continued the next day. He went on Channels TV and said I was paid to write about him, and so I had to respond fully as well.
Yeah. And I think that what makes people like Wike, and I like to put El Rufai in that category as well, what makes them dangerous is that they have somehow, strangely enough, succeeded in making Nigerians believe that they are effective in governance. That
Yes.
Wike calls himself Mr. Project. Once you rebrand, once you're able to rebrand yourself like that with Nigerians, it serves as the perfect cover for all kinds of shenanigans. You know, you can get away with murder.
Yes. Wike is the person who will kill somebody himself, but he has just commissioned the road.
Aha.
Yeah.
So Chido wants to talk. Chido is here with us, and
Okay.
Chido, can you please let me see? Can you unmute yourself?
Yes.
And engage?
No, I have to unmute him.
Oh, you have to unmute. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm finally unmuted. That's an interesting one from Moses. It's one for the ages. Hi guys, good to see you all. Young man, Sowore, how are you?
Doing well. I'm still doing well. I'm still here.
Okay, it's good to see you. You've come a long way, and I'm happy. What you started, how many years ago? You as a young reporter. I tell people it's not just today. From your days at Unilag, I remember before even CNN started the whole idea of embedding reporters. I used to go undercover as a student when I was a journalist to join you in the student union government so that I would go with you, live in your hostel, play snooker with your guys, and go to meetings with your students as part of the student union to be able to get the reports I needed.
That's true.
And I completely endorse what you've done over the years. And we reconnected in North America, the early days of Sahara Reporters, a couple of visits to New York, and also been editing, helping with the initial editing process for the paper. Just the resilience. Anybody who is interested in Nigeria and believes in this country, there are no two ways about it. The bottom line is that the country needs a revolution. That's the only thing. Every other thing is cosmetic and can't make any change. The damage is so bad that there has to be it's revolution, and it's not just, it's revolution now. My question is, considering the Nigerian state, the Nigerian nation, how divided we are. When I follow your trajectory, one of the things I always look out for is just to see how connected, organically connected are you with, folks, whether individuals or organizations and so on. And I think it's not, I'm not placing this burden or responsibility on you. It's something all of us as Nigerians or progressives have to do. But you have mastered the act. You are in the forefront of this. You live and breathe this. You do it every day. I'm just asking, how organically connected with groups do you feel a sense that it's possible it's not just Sowore working in silos in Abuja or Lagos. There is this organic connection with groups across the country who equally feel as passionate as you are about this. And I think I may be mistaken. I think that's the only way, when we have this groundswell of people across the country thinking the same way, feeling the same way. For example, you look at what happened with EndSARS and why people, to some extent in Abuja and mostly in Lagos, the rest of the country, particularly in the northern part of the country, the state was able to pull off this thing where you almost had an anti-EndSARS movement. What do you see? How do you think this can play out in helping to quicken the kind of social change that we desire in Nigeria? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you said something that's very important, and that's where you started to pivot away by saying, "I'm not placing the burden on you alone." Yeah, I think it's a function of the burden on a shared burden. I think the expectation that all of us should have is that when it comes to organizing, it can't be done by one person. And what I found in my reading of literature around South Africa's anti-apartheid movement is that there's an essential part of that that is missing in our own organizing. And maybe it is because people don't feel the passion that I have, or they don't feel the interest that I have. And it makes it look as if I'm the only person who is out there agitating. But when you look at the South African struggle, even if somebody went on exile, he kept connected to the ANC. They bring in their own support. They smuggle things across the border. They bring in money. They don't care where the money comes from. And they kept the struggle sustained. Even if someone dies in any of the units, the leadership is filled immediately. I give an example. Maybe it's not an ideal example, but one of the questions I asked myself one day was like, how is it like a body like Hamas, able to continue to resist in Gaza? You understand? And we're not even in a Gaza situation where in Nigeria, where it's even easier to organize, and we can't organize ourselves. What I'm trying to say is that it is not my job alone. The burden feels heavier because I'm left. Some people just feel like it's Sowore's job to go and fight police, to go and fight customs, to go and fight everybody, fight Wike, fight Tinubu, fight judges. People need to come in. If people really, as you have described, believe that, yes, this is a shared burden, we need a revolution, as you've said, which has been my position as well. Everybody has to bring something to the table. You're talking about NSAS. I know we started NSAS in Abuja, but the states kept doing something during NSAS that people didn't pay attention to. They wanted to choose their own leaders for the NSAS movement. They didn't want an NSAS that was controlled by an outlaw, according to them, like me. So they mobilized people in Abuja. They attacked me during NSAS physically at the point. They kept saying that, oh, Sowore wants to hijack ISIS, and I have to stand there and fight back. I was like, what the hell are you talking? I started NSAS in Abuja. And then NSAS morphed into some kind of entertainment, social movement. And that was how it died. And money also was a major factor. But don't forget that learning from NSAS were the ones who organized End Bad Governance for 10 days in 2024. Even though I was in the US, yes. And what we learned from NSAS was what made it possible for us to enter the North and get the Northerners to participate in a way they have never participated in protests before. And the government was scared. I will not lie to you that some disgruntled politicians must have gotten involved. There's no doubt about it. They must have provided logistic, and all those Russian flags couldn't have come from Kano tailors because they didn't even know what the flags were about. They just gave them job to be sewing flags. So, but the motivation to start End Bad Governance was done by us, Take It Back movement. So, but what was the difference? People joined. I can organize people. I can go around and provoke people. I can go all out and make people feel angry enough, and you call it incitement. But I cannot at all times be the only person who will do the organizing, the conscientization, and I'm still the one who will do the protest on the protest day. And I'll be the one who is shot at, tear gassed. One person cannot do it. So it behooves on everybody who is asking this question to join in. Let's join hands together. And I want to use one example that the public has never heard from before. You mentioned it earlier, but I will say it today, Chido. When I was starting Sahara Reporters, we met. Now, you have this philosophically calm way of dealing with things. You said, sure, it's going to take a while for Nigeria to have internet too. But I'll help you up to the point that, you were one of the people who started helping me ideally from the beginning before other people joined, including some of us that are here today. But why was Sahara Reporters that productive? commitment, and persistence. There's nothing you can get done without persistence. If you want to change Nigeria, there has to be a number of committed, persistent persons who want to make sacrifices. Part of our problem, I'll say again, is that some Nigerians think that a struggle of this magnitude can be won overnight. They should go and ask South Africans. They started the ANC in 1918. They didn't gain power until 1994. There's no Nigerian who can, most Nigerians cannot, they don't have the time to do that. Anything that cannot, people are calculating 2027. If you go into any coalition, if they don't win in 2027, they are gone. Just like the party has disappeared now. Because they came on, the moment they didn't win more elections, they started going back to where they came from. Because that culture is also very important. That culture of discipline and persistence and sacrifice is a characteristic of Nigerians that is a bit lacking. So because I did that even with the party AAC when we started, we had a lot of people, but they were expecting that we win the presidency in 2018. When we didn't win, they went and they scattered the party. Some of them, went to the government. They went to Wike and collected money from Wike. Wike got them a judge. They kicked us out. I was on the plane when I heard that I was removed as chairman of AAC, a party that I funded with Malcolm, Fabi, and the rest. We were the ones who did the logo, did everything. We were going back to the US. They said they have removed us. A judge removed us. And it took us 3 years before we could get the party back from them. And
so sure.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, let me just butt in here. That way you can respond, also not to take too much of your time. Perhaps what we should be thinking then is to build a nationwide movement, and there is a reason for this. You mentioned the ANC and the long.
I'm ready.
Yeah, so
maybe not this time.
Maybe
I am ready. I am ready today. Yesterday. I'm ready yesterday.
So maybe the response would not be to build a political party, understanding the character and nature of the Nigerian state. Perhaps it's to build grassroots.
What was our mistake in 1999? We went and fought for 10 years, 1989 to 1999. The day the military left, we had no political party to capture power.
So if you build it...
Wait. By the time the Ganifa were missed, came back and realized 2003, the bad guys had already taken over everywhere. Go and ask Falana what happened to him in Ekiti when he ran for governor. People lined up behind him, according to him, by 6 a.m. By the time they started voting, he looked at it, 5 people left. So organize around a political party. If you don't gain political power, what are you organizing for? Do you want to do a revolution so that El-Rufai will become the president of Nigeria? I don't want to do that.
No. What I'm saying is that, and again, going back to the South African example, we now build a political movement that ultimately the ANC was a political movement that transformed into a political party. If the ANC was not as solid and grounded the way it was, this problem you reference here about Gani and Falana and all that. So we need to have a nationwide political movement that is grassroots based and solid, which can then be
from your mouth. But let's forget about me. Gani started a political movement in 1994, right? Even when the military said it was illegal. Gani then did not participate in the transition program in 1999. But I think his members participated. I don't know, because I wasn't in Nigeria. I cannot tell the story. He realized his mistake in 2003 and ran for office, right? People in Ondo State were chasing Ganifa with cutlass in Mobolo Ondoro that he didn't have money to give them. I'm not making this up. So you can say you want to create a nationwide. We already have nationwide movements. The TIB is a nationwide movement. But we can argue that some of you or some of our friends don't want to join organizations that are formed by their younger brother. Sowore is too young to go and invite me to come and join political party. But the political party is already there. It's registered. The AAC is one of the 18 political parties that's registered today. It's the one that you can say that anybody who wants to contest can go to without being a money bag and contest. Today, before we were interviewing,
so we can build around that.
Anambra. There's no way that lady could have been a political candidate in any election in Nigeria if it wasn't the AAC. These are the things we should guard jealously, because they're not going to register a new political party for you. You know that. They have already seen you before you see them. But the one that we have, the political movement we have, what I think is happening is that maybe there's nothing left in the left anymore. I apologize if this sounds offensive, because the left is empty.
Yeah. No, it's
It's
not
empty in terms of manpower. It's empty in terms of ideology.
I agree with you completely. Perhaps the Nigerian state, the character and nature of the Nigerian state has swallowed the left. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
The character and nature of the Nigerian state has swallowed the left. The point, maybe just finally, and it's not you are the person here. Why I was raising this issue is, for example, let's say a Moses Ochonu was in Nigeria doing EndSARS, and you go to mobilize and lead the movement in Lagos. People will say, oh, this man from northern Nigeria or from Benue State has come to take over this place. How do we build that? And any of us on the panel, the moderators can chime in. How do we build this pan-Nigeria political movement or structure that can stand the test of time, withstand what the state throws at us in terms of the division that the political class has managed to create over time? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chido. Well, unfortunately, I think Sowore has left us. I think he didn't leave, but his connection, I think.
Yeah, I was disconnected for a second. Yeah, I heard it last minute. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody was also saying in the comment section, by the way, which is kind of hilarious.
Yes, I wanted to ask you that so you can respond. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Do you know that does he know that you can't enter a Nigerian campus today if you're an activist? Charlie Kirk can go into any campus. He just needs to apply to speak. The people will come there. You can't. I graduated from the University of Lagos. The University of Lagos authorities would not allow me to come and campaign at UNILAG in 2023. The VC told me outright, we have an agreement with the APC government not to allow any opposition into this campus. The day I was supposed to come, they canceled my show, and they allowed MC Oluomo to come and speak at UNILAG the same day I was supposed to speak.
Oh.
Would a Charlie Kirk work in Nigeria? So I didn't make this up. This happened. So the solution, and I agree with Chido in that regard, is that the mindset has to change also, because we cannot attack the problem of Nigeria with a very relaxed mindset because the people you are fighting against, they are very aggressive. They are not playing, So they must also see that you are not playing. That's why the ANC kept coming to the conversation. You can say the ANC was not a political party, but they have already structured themselves to capture power as far back as they already had a shadow government. Somehow they had ambassadors. The ANC had ambassadors in the UK, they had in the US. They may not be recognized, but what I'm saying is that you have to build the structure of the organization you want to capture power. You cannot leave a political party that is organized to capture power to go and set up a movement that will fight power only. What we even did in this case with our own example is that we created a movement that fights power, and we also created a political party that can capture power. So, but the problem is that we are not money bags, because I will not lie to you, money is a major factor when politics is involved in Nigeria.
See, there's some questions from Facebook. Can I ask a few of them?
Yes.
Yeah, just a couple, because we're running out of time. Just a couple of
them. Well, there's Professor Art Adewale Adenle. He says, given the abnormality of our current democracy, Wouldn't Sowore, as a veritable activist and revolutionary extraordinaire, be more effective in the Senate or House of Reps, where radical changes should actively occur, and build a coalition of like-minded individuals for the National Assembly than gunning for the presidency?
The Senate is not a revolutionary space. The House of Assembly, the House of Representatives is not a revolutionary space. If you think I'm lying, go and ask Natasha. Are you getting my point? If you go to the Senate with, yeah, if you go to the Senate with radicalism, they will kick you out in a very radical manner, ruthlessly. This is not the first time they did it. Do you know how I met Dino Melaye? Dino Melaye was being beaten in the House of Rep, and Falana come and say, "Come and see." You remember his clothes being torn in the House of Rep because apparently in those days we used to think he was a radical. I mean, of blessed memory. So we fought for them. And since then, it was very clear that the Nigerian system, you cannot overhaul Nigeria by joining any of the arms. The only part of Nigeria that you can use to overhaul Nigeria is the presidency, because the presidency has the power, it has the authority, it has the leverage to do a lot of things. Most people don't understand Nigerian presidency. Nigerian presidency is the most powerful position. I am not saying that I want to be a powerful president, but with the position of president in Nigeria, you can change almost 90% of Nigeria's problems. You can construct roads from Lagos to Kutu-Wenji. You can build schools as federal government. Nobody will ask you. You can feed school children as federal government. It's fine. You can pay teachers' salaries. You can pay doctors. You can pay lecturers. Nigeria's federal government is the only federal government in the world that does everything, and it's okay. And you now go and choose a place where, if you ask the professor who is asking this question, does he know the name of his senator? He probably doesn't know. I know the name of my senator because I'm in Nigeria, and because I used to cover him as a thief, Jimo Ibrahim. So when he became senator of Ondo South, I knew him. But most people don't know their senators because these places are not effective in solving Nigeria's problem. And if you walk into their midst, there are 109 senators. If you walk into their midst and you're trying to be stubborn, they will kick you out, nothing will happen. They will tell you go to court. The court will give an order, they will tell you that the courts have no right to determine for the Senate what the Senate needs to do. If the courts are very troublesome, they will go on vacation. They can go on vacation for a year, nothing will happen. Anytime they want to discuss something that they don't want the public, they will go into what they call plenary. The National Assembly in Nigeria, especially the Senate, any one of them, you cannot know who voted for what. They disabled the electronic voting system. They have it. They disabled it. But in the US, you can research since almost the day the US Senate was set up or the Congress was set up, and you will know everybody that has voted for which law. They will write their name. When there was no electronic voting, they will write it in a card and keep it in the Library of Congress. You can't do that in Nigeria. So don't let us deceive ourselves. You cannot change Nigeria by going to the Senate. You can't change Nigeria by going to, I'm just saying that to respond to his question. I was never interested in being a senator. If I wanted to be a senator, I would have campaigned and tried to be. I don't want to be a governor. If I wanted to be, I wouldn't have minced word about it. Most of you know me. And there's nobody who should be saying to people like me that he can't be president because what? You are too young, or you are too brilliant, or you are too exposed. What exactly is the criteria for president that disqualifies me? And the question I ask people who say this is that if I go to the Senate, who becomes the president? Bola Tinubu or Atiku or who? So it's also a mindset. And beyond being a mindset, I also think it's a psychological issue. I think a lot of our people just have given up. They have what we call complex. The part that we don't like to talk about, inferiority complex.
Yeah.
Well, the people,
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
you've just reached out to say that we should give them their time, but I've asked them to raise their hand so that I can recognize them.
Yeah. We need to take
but
one or two
haven't-
questions from them if they are here with us.
You guys don't forget that I have 2 court cases next week, so I can't stay. You guys don't have any
Yes.
problems.
Exactly. So for us, I think
We're rounding up
I have
now.
99 problems, you know.
Yeah, exactly. We're mindful of that, Sowore. So
yeah.
we're
So
going to
I
have
think
to
to
wrap up.
just wrap up. And since
Yeah.
the broadcast is taking place from his side, maybe they can continue from there.
Exactly. Maybe they can continue from there. Absolutely. So thank you, everyone. Unfortunately, we have to leave it here. We have already taken so much of the time of our guest. He's been very generous with us with his time. We know he's very busy, but thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for your questions. He has given us a lot to think about. It is up to us now what we do with what he has told us, what he has said here. We have engaged him, and we all want a better Nigeria. And so the ideas that he has put on the table, let us run with those ideas. Let us debate them. Let us refine them. Thank you again for joining us. We'll be back again next month with another show. Thank you, Sowore. We can't thank you enough. We'll thank you
Thank
again
you.
offline.
Thank you very much,
Thank
everyone.
Yes.
Thank you, Moses. Thank
Yes.
you, Farooq.
Thank
Yeah.
And
you. Thank you for
Osmund,
honoring.
I
Yeah.
apologize for not thanking you for that great article.
No.
You know my
You don't have
position.
to.
I don't even accept awards because I always ask myself, you know, what am I being awarded for?
Yeah.
You know, but I really appreciate all of what you're doing. These conversations, by the way, are very important. They are part of the bridge we need to build. You know, our bridge to Nigeria should not only be Western Union. There should be more intellectual engagements on how to free this country. And I've always believed that the diaspora has a major role to play in fixing the future of Nigeria. The revolution that we're talking about, you are going to be largely part of it. It might just be that you are the writers for the revolution, as Moses does, Farooq does, Osmund, you do. You know, maybe one of your article one day will just get everybody, you know, to start doing what we want everybody to do. But don't let us give up. I appreciate all of you, and I'll be glad again anytime if you call upon me to come back and be part of this great broadcast. Even if it means that next time I'm a member of the audience, I don't mind.
Okay. Well, it's great to hear that.
So I don't know
Sure.
if
Yes.
Chidima is the one who was texting with me on WhatsApp.
Okay, maybe we should take
No.
There are two
No.
people who are there, Chidima and Choma.
Yes, Choma and
Choma is
Chidima.
actually our governorship candidate in Anambra State, by the way.
Oh, is that
okay.
so?
Yeah,
Yes.
she's there. Just her hand raised up there.
Yeah, her hand is raised. So
But
we want to give her that courtesy, if you don't mind,
Yeah,
Sowore.
please.
Maybe
Chidima and
for
Chioma,
just a second, yeah.
very briefly. Yeah.
yes, no, please. Baba has already done the introduction, please. So Chama can take it from there. Good evening or good morning.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's evening here.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, good
Yes, go
evening.
ahead.
Hello, can
Go
you
ahead, please.
hear
Yes,
me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Loud and clear.
Oh, okay. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here alongside my leader, Omoyele Sowore. Thanks to meeting every one of you. I appreciate. My name is Choma Grace Ifemeludiki. I'm the governorship candidate of the African Action Congress. I am from Anambra State, Idemili North, to be precise, Eziowele. Yes. So I don't know if you have any questions for me. I'll be much glad to respond. Thank you.
Well, since we're wrapping up now, the only question that I would like to use my discretion as host to ask you is, what is, in a succinct way, what is your agenda? What is your platform as a governorship candidate of the AAC in this forthcoming gubernatorial election? What is it that you want to do in Anambra that hasn't been done before and that the other candidates are not proposing to do? Simple as that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think it's simple, just to deliver good governance to Anambra like never before. Yes, because over time we've just had people who are putting up a charade, a disguise, wearing masks as leaders, but they don't have the interest of the people. So I'm bringing passion like never before, because actually that's how it runs in my veins, because I've seen real hardship. I've seen people, live their lives below food chain, live below average. And this is unacceptable, because I've also been in societies where people, don't necessarily have to be in the trenches or just live in a bizarre way, live in a way that doesn't meet up with human standards. So I don't see the reason, compared to the resources we have, considering the allocations and all that we have in our country, especially in Anambra State. I don't see the reason why our people should be suffering at the rate at which they are suffering. So I'm bringing leadership like never before. Very passionate, very patriotic, and quite distinct. Yeah.
Well, from the Diaspora Dialogues crew, we wish you all the best in the forthcoming elections. This is Chioma Ifemeluduike, the AAC candidate for governor in Anambra State. Thank you so much. That was quite succinct. And thank you everyone again for joining us today. We'll be back, as I said, next month with another topic, maybe with another guest. Thank you so much and good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, Sowore is already gone, so
Yes.
his time is very precious. But I think we had a very useful and helpful and enlightening conversation. And
Yes.
to our Facebook audience, they've asked a lot of questions. Unfortunately, I was able to ask only one, but next time we're going to be more participatory than we are now. But I think everyone in the comment section agrees that this was a very big, insightful discussion.
Yeah, quite wide
Yeah.
ranging.
And maybe I would suggest that we continue this discussion in our Diaspora Dialogue Facebook page. They can post some of those questions. We can trash it around. We can also get this response if it needs to be. And we continue the session. Yeah.
That's a great idea. We'll do that. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Okay.
Bye.